Question 17. Hospital Executive. At a recent conference on nonprofit management, several computer experts maintained that the most significant threat faced by large institutions, such as universities and hospitals, is unauthorized access to confidential data. In light of this testimony, we should make the protection of our clients' confidentiality our highest priority. So, argument or set of facts. Clearly, we have an argument here. The conclusion is that we should make the protection of our clients' confidentiality our highest priority. And how do we know that client confidentiality should be the highest priority at this hospital? Well, at a recent conference on nonprofit management, several computer experts maintained that the most significant threat faced by large institutions, such as universities and hospitals, is unauthorized access to confidential data. So you notice the premise is that several computer experts said that the most significant threat is unauthorized access to confidential data. Therefore, we should make protection of our clients' confidentiality our highest priority. You realize that this is clearly a flawed argument. Doesn't make any sense because computer experts, while qualified to talk about computer issues, cannot make a broad claim like the one they make here that the most significant threat faced by large institutions is unauthorized access to confidential data. Maybe in the field of IT and information technologies, that's the most significant threat. But to overgeneralize and say that that's the largest threat across the entire board doesn't make any sense. Computer experts aren't qualified to speak on something of that broad of a nature. They could talk about IT and computer related issues, but for the hospital executive to take their testimony at this nonprofit management conference to conclude, therefore, that we should make client confidentiality our highest priority obviously makes no sense. It's a hospital. What about patient health? Right? So clearly doesn't make any sense. And as we proceed to the question stem, the hospital executive's argument is most vulnerable to which one of the following objections? Most vulnerable. We see another errors of reasoning question. So looking for the answer choice that describes the logical flaw in this passage, let's take a look at A. The argument confuses the causes of a problem with appropriate solutions to that problem. And you notice that clearly does not apply. First, we do not have a cause and effect argument. And also, there's no confusion of causes for solutions. The idea here is computer experts said that this is the largest threat. Therefore, we should make this the highest priority. B, the argument relies on the testimony of experts whose expertise is not shown to be sufficiently broad to support their general claim. And you notice B is exactly what we talked about. Computer experts do not have the expertise to say the most significant threat faced by a large institution is unauthorized access to confidential data. It's too broad. It's outside of their realm of expertise. They could speak on IT and other computer-related issues, but to say that this is the most significant threat implies that this takes priority over everything else, which clearly doesn't make sense. So B here would be the correct answer. But again, let's just make sure. Checking C. The argument assumes that a correlation between two phenomena is evidence that one is the cause of the other. C, explaining the flaw of mistaking correlation for cause and effect. But again, you notice doesn't apply. We don't have a cause and effect argument here, so C is out. D, the argument draws a general conclusion about a group based on data about an unrepresentative sample of that group. And you notice what sample? We do not draw data here from a sample, so D clearly does not apply either. D would be eliminated, which brings us lastly to E. The argument infers that a property belonging to large institutions belongs to all institutions. And again, that's explaining the flaw of overgeneralization here, but not what we saw in our passage. We were still talking about large institutions, such as universities and hospitals. Again, this is a hospital executive speaking, so we do not overgeneralize to all institutions. We are still talking about large institutions, in this case, a hospital.